So let's get this one started. So I've given you this reference image, and perhaps before we start rendering the car itself, it's probably worth trying to understand what we're doing here in terms of where we're putting the marker and why we're putting the marker there. So I want to run a section view profile through this car. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a contour line that runs along the car body. So you can review the video there. And if I just try and draw that section view and exaggerate it a little bit on here. Yeah, this is kind of the section of the vehicle. Then there's the car, there's the tyre. It's over here. And that's kind of the cabin there. So we're looking at the section view where we're trying to imagine this car is in a photography studio. And if you've ever seen a photography studio, you normally operate with quite big panels of light. So it could be like these fluoros here, big banks of fluorescent lights, or all sorts of different lighting configurations to illuminate the product that you're trying to photograph. What we're interested in, though, is trying to simplify our scene. So if you think about the cube we looked at earlier, we imagined that we had that light coming over our left-hand shoulder, so it was brightest on that flat top face. The mid-tone was on the left-hand face, and the darker tone was on the right-hand face. This Mercedes isn't so dissimilar to that. If we simplify this, we can imagine there's probably a light panel in the studio that's sending light out. So that might be a fluoro or a light box, something like that. And then what will also be arranged in the scene will be, they put black panels in or coloured panels in depending on what kind of effect they're looking for. So the black panels might be sat on the ground, and that's just going to reflect a black panel into the bodywork, like so. What this means for when we're putting our markers and pastels on is we can really start to simplify the scene. We can look at a photograph and start to understand the shape of the product by understanding where the reflections are, if we can reverse engineer the scene. So basically, with this is a simplistic way of putting it, but basically what we're looking at today is surfaces that are facing down, they're horizontal or facing down, they will get marker. Okay, because they're going to be affected by the ground and this black panel that's in our scene. So if you can imagine there's like an equator on the side of the vehicle, or the character line, there's that strong crease that runs along there. That's a bit of almost an equator for this vehicle. And then anything that's facing up is going to be white, or get pastel and lighter pencil tones, including the roof, because we'll imagine there's like two panels around here, or the panel wraps right around that roof. So if you could imagine that light studio, that photography studio, and you can then start to reverse engineer the contours of the vehicle, the product, then we can start to understand why we're putting marker where we are, because what we're trying to represent is stuff that's facing downwards or horizontal gets marker, stuff that's up is going to be reflecting the box light in the studio. And that's as simple as that, as it gets, really. Because obviously, if we're doing something more photorealistic, there's other things you want to consider, but for the sake of what we're rendering and how we render, that's as complicated as we want to go, is thinking about what's reflecting the light, what's reflecting other objects in the scene, and then that helps us communicate the form. So you're lucky enough to have a turntable on the website, but also the image that I've given you. What I do recommend is that you do the hatched version first up, where you can look at the photograph here and kind of hatch in where you think the marker needs to go. Because you don't want to be sitting there necessarily sculpting. You're going to have a hard enough time with the colours anyway, probably. You don't want to be sitting there trying to sculpt and work out where the marker is going. So just spending a bit of time up front trying to identify where those contours are. It's a photocopy one as well, so I'm just going to just map in. Once you get better understanding how to draw organic shape and you have your default scene that you know is in your head, you guys won't need to do this. But at this point, it's worth thinking about and just doing a bit of pre-planning to make your life a little bit easier. I'm not going to hatch this one, but when you guys do it, you might have a hatched one that you have underneath. Or if you hatch light enough, that can actually be an interesting stylistic thing as well. Maybe you do it with pencil, and the pencil will come through the marker, and I think that can add some richness to it. We've had a look at professional automotive renders before, so there's a broad range of styles there. Because one of the other things you want to try and do with an automotive sketch, or any sketch actually, any product design sketch, is try to communicate some of the emotional value of the product through the sketch. Is it dynamic? Is it, what's the emotional stuff that's going on there? But today we just focused on trying to make this look like a car. All the other stuff is a nice thing to aim for. So I'm just putting some contours through here to help me work out where I'm going to put marker. And you might do that technique that I was talking about before about squinting a little bit too when you look at this thing. You might even simplify the photograph a little bit more. And I've given you the center line as well. The center line is kind of important. You want to put that into it. And then it gets a bit complicated around this radiator intake area at the bottom here. But we're getting pretty close to probably having enough information to start rendering this thing. And I strongly recommend you use a photocopy, otherwise you can really do this thing a couple of times. Okay. Just a disclaimer, I haven't ever rendered this view before either, so it's good. Wait for Zach to correct me.
I think you're doing a pretty good job at the moment.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your support. So I'm going to start first up with the midtones, the two midtones that I've got, the lipstick and vermilion. They're pretty similar, actually. We'll go with lipstick. And I'm just going to sculpt in that region. And you can see when I'm putting the marker in there as well, like when we're doing the more geometric shapes, I'm kind of following the contours a little bit because I want those streaks to help the contours read, or make the shape read. So what you'll notice is the difference between this one that I'm doing now and the one that I've given you as a demo on YouTube of the Mustang. On the Mustang, I've done all the black and grey sections first. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I'm just going to show you two different ways to do it and let you decide what you prefer. Good thing about putting the darker sections in later is that you can then use the darker markers to hide some of the overlaps that you might accidentally put in. Okay. So we'll just kind of sculpt in. This, I wouldn't try and be overly, totally precise with this marker application either. We're going to be sculpting this up a little bit so the shape reads right. Okay, and put a bit more down here because that's facing downwards. Now we're not drawing cars because cars are awesome either, by the way. It's just a great exercise because sculpturally cars are fascinating from a product design point of view. You can draw a car, there's not going to be many products that you won't be able to do from a drawing point of view after that. Okay, so we'll keep going here. So because I know where the marker needs to go, it's just an autopilot add marker, not having to think about the shape of the car so much. Okay. Don't be afraid to jump in with any questions if you've got any as we go. Doesn't matter what colour you render this thing in. The good thing about the widget on the website too is it lets you paint the vehicle in different colours, so you might get something similar to the markers that you're going to be using. I've started with the lighter. Yeah, started with the lighter. And remember we looked at using grey marker for adding another level of tone to this earlier today as well, or the coloured markers. So if you're going to do that, you might want to put your C3 in first. But I've got two markers. I've actually got a third one, which is a darker one again if I need to use that. So so from here, I want to start getting the secondary level of tone in before I start coming back in and start looking at some of those details. Okay. Some markers, as you know, you can layer them up and you get that depth from the second layer. This lipstick orange is quite translucent, so it's not giving me a super dark second coat. So I'm probably going to just jump back in with the darker tone to start getting that second tone in there. Might as well put the mirrors happening at the same time. And there is a little bit of a shadow there as well. So again, not trying to be photorealistic, reasonably abstract, just enough so that the shape starts to read and the vehicle communicate. So now I've got my darker tone. And because we looked at that contour of the body shape of the vehicle earlier, I can see that this is probably the area of the vehicle that's facing downwards the most in that side panel. So I'm going to give that the darker tone. And these extra marker lines you can see kind of bleeding and going everywhere at the moment. Again, I'm not too worried about that because I'm going to come back in with colour pencil later and sort that out. So now I'm just looking for those surface areas that are facing downwards the most, and really darkening them up. And then I'm probably going to come back with the lighter one again and just start to add, blend it all together a little bit more. Okay, so we just keep adding this in. it's quite a, like it's probably one of the biggest things you've had to render as well, just the size of it. Like don't shrink this down to A4 or anything. Work big, makes your job a lot easier. One of the things you see on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, like a lot of these images, these renderings that you see, they're actually shrunk down when you see them, so they look better shrunk down. So if you work bigger and shrink it down for presentations, that will make your work look better. Okay, so we just kind of darken that up. So we might just start adding another layer there. So hopefully that's reading pretty good at the moment. In terms of getting that tone, and I'm leaving this a bit streaky in areas as well, so it's a bit like what we were talking about earlier with the idea of maybe there's objects like street signs or trees or whatever reflecting into the body panel. So I'm not going for that as smooth as the photograph, given the image a bit of texture, but everyone's going to have their own style in here as well, so I don't want to stifle your creativity too much, but it should look like mine. Or have a look what Zach does. Alright. We're almost getting close to having enough marker on here, I reckon. Funnily enough, you're probably going to spend a fair bit of time adding in the black and the grey and the pencils, all those details that make the makeup a vehicle. Which is kind of why I've just jumped straight into the body stuff, so that when you guys get bored, you can disappear while I finish the black stuff off. Actually, this one does have red brake calipers too, so I wanted to put those in at this point. And what is going to happen in here, there's going to be a few people who spend way too much time on the wheels. You're going to spend 2 hours on the wheels and 10 minutes on the body of the vehicle.
Steel hubcaps.
Yeah, hubcaps.
VW hubcaps.
Yeah, so just adding a little bit more, now that things are starting to dry. Yeah, you're trying to plan ahead a little bit here as well, because you're lucky this time around that you've got an image to work from for reference. But you often just need to step back from the image and think what the next step is going to be. What are you trying to communicate? Where does the marker need to go? So I think I'm going to add even a bit more in than what is in the photograph, just to help that communicate. So just putting a little bit of a strip there. Okay, technically it's not abiding by the laws of physics, but I think it'll help the windscreen area communicate a bit more. There's also the beading around the top of the windscreen there, so I'm changing this a little bit, but it's all about communication. I actually think the mirror should have a bit more around the top there as well. So there's a couple of things we could do from here. I could go into pastel from here, but I actually want to start putting in some of the other details. So things like the windows, the tyres, the radiator, before we start looking at the chrome area. So someone asked me earlier about this Copic black. They sell a few blacks. I've got a Copic black and a special black. I'm not sure what the difference is. One's special, one's black. But I wouldn't worry about that. I think you guys can get away with just using Sharpies and art lines and these kinds of things. I think they're fine. I will use a Copic today because I've got it, but yeah, don't feel like you have to go and hose money on that. Now, this is an abstraction, so the window on my sketch is going to be black. And then I'm going to come back and add in a little bit of detail for the window later. Because this is an exterior design sketch, not an interior sketch. But it's a car, so I'm going to show you a little bit of the interior. Sketching like Cabra laser and stuff, because I'm going to show you seats and stuff as well. Okay, and do the same thing on the side. Think about these windows, what they are. Windows on cars are essentially sections of a sphere, so we can use some of the thinking around rendering spheres for windows. We'll come back to that. So this exercise is probably going to test your skills at kind of rotating the marker around. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly taking the cap off and rotating around to get the small section. And I think get good at rotating the marker in your hand so you can make use of that wedge tip as much as possible. That'll save heaps of time. I guess the other option is to take the cap off the other end and do it that way. Okay, so now we've got the window in, we can start to look at it and reassess the bodywork again, see if anything else is kind of jumping out as missing. Now I've left that little pillar there. I put a little fine line between it because I'm working in black, so I want to be able to remember where that pillar is when I come back to it later. So just two little fine lines there to help that. Now come in and start on the radiator. The radiator in the photograph has like a pretty interesting mesh on it. Yeah, I wouldn't try to represent that in the same way that it's done in the photograph. I'd think of other ways that you could get that effect. Abstract it. Because if you were doing a real concept presentation for this vehicle, you'd come in with a detailed sketch of the grille. So let's set that up. Now we haven't done chrome yet, but we'll have a bit of a go at it today. Now the Mercedes logo has black in it as well. I should have put a UniSA logo on there.
That one there is sort of a lightweight one, so
okay, we'll fix up the number plate here. And we've got more grill area underneath. We've got chrome on the photograph, but I don't mind if you want to maybe customize those colors a little bit. So maybe I'll customize the colors on this one. So I won't do chrome. I'll give the plastic trim and the chrome trim a different color. So maybe I'll use green, because I've got that. I mean, you guys have got grey markers, so you can make it grey. You've got that.
yeah, no, that's good.
So I'm going to go with, it's going to be, reflective green, metallic green maybe. Again, don't scale the amount of detail you're putting into it. Pretend you're looking at this thing with squinty eyes. And the same thing happens with the grills, with the bodywork. Imagine what's facing down and what's facing up. And give stuff that's facing down darker reflection. The stuff that's facing up will get a lighter reflection. Interesting with the green. This bit is in shadow. It's for the first time this green has ever been used. darker green. And I'm stucking some details in there.
The Italians would be loving this one, the Germans.
Yeah, that was subconscious of me to do this time. Wasn't intentional. I was looking to do like an Alfa Romeo this year, but I shouldn't be saying this, but the Alfa Romeo is looking pretty boring at the moment.
What about the Giulia?
Yeah, for what we want to do in here, it hasn't got like the hard edges and creases that we want, you know. Whereas the Mercedes is just a bit more creased.
Should have done better.
So my son's got a pulse up and it's creased.
Yeah, you're referring to my Toyota or the creased or? Just inking some headlight detail as well. Now the headlights are another one that's really easy to get carried away with, but just kind of stylize it. Doing just enough detail. Okay, green tail lights, but headlights, but just go with C4. So just with those grey markers that you've already got, you won't need to buy any new markers for these other details. Okay. Bit of C2 for the lenses, and it doesn't really have blue in there, but I've got blue here, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue. Okay, and I'll come back in with a bit of C6 to darken that up. Okay. So yeah, this is one of the advantages of putting the darker marker on second, is you can start to go over areas where the lighter coloured markers had bled earlier, so you can start to tighten that up as we go. And I might just come in with a little bit of black there as well. So it's just abstraction. Don't make it look too realistic, otherwise you'll over. Okay. I'm just having a look at how these surfaces are working through here. I reckon there needs to be another little bit of red through there. I reckon there should be a little bit more red over there.
It's coming up in a month.
A month?
Yeah, it's here in November.
The Mercedes Christmas card. And yeah, now just start blackening in the tile arches, wheel arches. Again, with the wheels, you could, try and use just the grey markers you've got to complete the wheels. So I'll just you got yours there, Egg?
Yeah, the one on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good, that one.
Yeah, not bad.
I remember being captivated by it. I know you.
I'm shocked that was only a year ago now, Dan.
That's scary, isn't it? What's scary is I don't even remember doing that. Did I really do that? I can draw like that?
Nah, man, it was me. Go on, talk it. It's not mine.
Okay, so things like the wheels are a bit like the headlight in that I think you want to try and keep them fairly abstract. As soon as you just try and go too realistic, too photorealistic with them, they're just going to look bad. So I'm gonna steam through the wheels.
Yeah.
My old boss in Japan, who was the guy who tore my stuff off the wall and taught me to draw ellipses properly by doing so, used to come around and bag anyone who was spending too much time at this phase of the project on the wheels. Just, because people just get, like I said, you spend 10 minutes on the rendering of the body or the drawing of the body and then an hour designing wheels for it. That's a whole other business. So in the one I've given you guys, the sketch I did first up has spokes, and I thought, no, we'll go with the simpler one, because otherwise you're going to be drawing spokes for 20 minutes.
Don't laugh at it.
Okay, so yeah. But it's a bit like drawing eyes on a portrait of someone. If you get the wheels too wrong, it won't look like a car anymore. Okay, so just kind of blocking in black. This is the now one little trick we might do that with this one too is with your concept sketch, you're often trying to focus attention on a particular part of the sketch. So with the front 3/4 view of a car, you're really trying to focus the attention into this area. So you'll often see that the rear end of it won't be overly defined that much. So things like the wheels might just be left in a cool grey number 6 or something even lighter. So I might actually do that with this one. I won't put too much detail there. We'll try and focus all the detail, all the energy around the front here. All right, let's hit this hit the wheel up now with a 6 just for the tyre. I'm not too concerned about letting the marker bleed. I'm trying to work just at pace, and then I'll come back with the coloured pencil afterwards and the biro and things like that to add, to get those areas tighter. Okay. Some areas in here. Guys got any questions? I will do that at my, as quickly as I can. I'm not expecting you guys to finish this today either. I think you might make a good start, and you might. Well, Darren's finished.
What?
Does it?
You look pretty good.
That. So I was ready to start with.
Okay, so we just spent a bit of time. So you can see what's going on here. I'm just spending a fair bit of time now on these wheels because they're all consuming in terms of detail. I should have done green wheels as well. Just to really make it horrible.
Thank God you did that.
So it's add a bit more tone to the wheels. And I'm going to hit with the C2. Just to look a bit like a brushed.
It's gonna be done next week. I don't think we'll get there.
Brush metal. I've got this little strip down here I've forgotten about as well, which is like a little grey metallic strip. And one of the other things with these with your product sketches where you start to add marker in, even like what I did up here with the door, where the door panels come together, just put a little line of colour in there. It really helps to add thickness, gives dimension to the sketch. So like what I'm doing down here with the grey, where you imagine there's two body panels that are meeting. They don't, they're not wafer thin. They're not pieces of paper. They've got thickness and dimension to them. So little hints of colour like that are useful to indicate thickness. So with the rear wheel, I'm not going to put as much time into that. What did I do last year? That was fairly well done. Oh no, it's kind of vague as well. You can kind of see it's not rendered inside the wheel itself. Spokes are kind of there. It's got a hint of detail, but just in the interest of time. Now I've got this headlight at the back too, which is, or tail light, which is red. Put a bit of grey there. And the other thing is the metallic trim around the window. So we're getting close with probably the amount of detail that's in there. So I'm thinking I'm maybe at the point now where I might want to put the pastel on. Okay. Start to give us a bit more dimension back there. So just a hint. Okay. Yeah, see what I mean? I've got to stop. Thank you, Darren. I'm going to make a modification to the wing mirror as well. I'm going to make the indicator orange. And I'll put a little splash of orange in there as well. Even though it's all about coloured LEDs and stuff these days. So I reckon we're probably about ready to pastel this up. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to need to second somebody's eraser again as well. So, poorly prepared student.
Anyway, you need
Throw it right in.
just do it. See if you can get it.
Go on, do it.
God, Adrian.
Did nothing average.
Good bro.
Now you guys are probably wondering why I got a can of Zippo fluid on the table here as
Set it all
well.
on fire.
This is a good one.
I love smoking. I used to smoke. I had a Zippo lighter. But if you're running a bit short on cash or whatever, okay, we've done this red pastel thing before, right? But you can turn your pastel into a marker as well. So if you need a particular colour, then you can actually start to get some pretty cool watercolour effects by putting the Zippo lighter fuel on there, and then you can even run other colours through there. We're going to come back to this in later weeks.
I suppose it's an expensive alternative though.
Yeah.
Shellac would work, wouldn't it?
As long as it's a solvent. Yeah, solvent doesn't destroy the surface of the paper too much. Like Zippo is pretty mild.
They use shellac and lime.
It works alright. Bring some in, we'll try it. Around my dad's
Gin.
I ran my dad's on Shellite for a while. No, one night I had to get home and
Really?
yeah, made it home.
Couple of that fires on the way.
Thanks,
Just play around
hang on to them or you?
No, you are.
I got some. Alright, awesome. See you next week.
Quick break from talking. I figured it works, alright? So you have upload stuff. Yeah, maybe or but I was Thanks so much.
Alright, so we're about to pastel up here.
Bye. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to hit all of those upper areas.
Wait, do you have the lighter?
No, I don't. I'm just showing you that as a... No, not to confuse. Just you get a darker tone, and you can. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But it's also if you're running low on markers and you need to get a more permanent, a darker effect than you get just with the pastel on its own, then that's the way to go.
You can mix colours as well.
Can mix colours as well. Now this might be a new one for you, Zach.
Don't get that too
Not
excited
sure if
now.
we did this last year, but what you'll often do. What you'll often do with pastel, and I'm not doing it today. I left the baby powder over in the office. Is you mix talcum powder with the pastel, and it grips into the paper a lot better.
Like baby powder, like lots of baby powder.
But that doesn't.
Yeah, whatever. It's like the Johnson & Johnson
Baby powder.
baby powder stuff. Now, just because I used to like smoking doesn't mean I tried the baby powder or all this kind of stuff. Like all these things I'm recommending.
I really hope that's not right. So does the baby powder act as like a fixative for it?
Fixative, but it also helps bite into the paper, depending on the type of paper you've got. So if you've got really smooth paper, it seems to work really nicely to help it bite into the grip.
Like bleed through.
Yeah. But just one more thing to carry around, so I don't really,
Its bag fell open and it's like
Yeah.
spotlight and baby powder all over the
Go
floor.
like Costco and get involved.
I love Costco.
Someone got married in Costco the other day.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Imagine, it's like think about how to cook anything, everything's right there for you.
All right.
Like 5 people get married.
So now I've got to spend the time cutting this back. And like I said earlier, you can leave the pastel outside the sketch, and particularly with a car, you might do it at the back to help that look like it's speeding along, going forward.
I don't.
Okay, so maybe I'll do that at the back. I'll just kind of smudge that there at the back. Okay. So at this point, I want to start getting, I want to cut it off of the windows and off of the metallic trim, because I'm going to come back in shortly and add some pencil on those windows, and I'm going to start now cutting some pastel back. Okay, just cut that back a little bit around the front there. So even though it's, it's a fairly consistent reflection going on there, you still want to get that graduated kind of reflection happening. So you can also cut it back a fair bit, and then without putting more pastel on, you can just come back in and smooth that out. How are we going here, Zach? Any suggestions?
Oh, I reckon you're going great.
Thanks.
I wish we did the Mercedes.
So, P1?
Okay, so just cut the pastel off of the areas where it's not needed.
You'd like that, wouldn't you? The only way to knock me off.
Same with the headlight. Same with the tyres.
You don't really complete.
Are you spoiling them with what's coming?
Oh yeah, I'm
It's not a spoiler, it's a present.
It's a warning.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright, so I could spend more time on this, and I don't, you know, I'm conscious of everyone's time. We don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours doing this, so, well, enough time, that's enough. So I'm going to start putting,
Is that just normal white pencil? Or
yeah,
is that
no, this is not the Lumo color, formerly known as a China graph. This is the Weiss Faber-Castell. So yeah, ordinary pencil. And so I'm simplifying the cabin
Not this country.
to make that, again, stylize it so it looks like cabin without too much detail in there. And then what we might do, and on the drawing that I've given you a hint of these things, but there's like a headrest that you might see through there. So just putting a little bit of detail around some of those interior features. There's a bit of a dashboard. It's going to be there, over the top of a steering wheel. But I wouldn't do any more. Wouldn't do any more than that. Then we could come in with the super white, but I'm going to save the super white till the end because it's so waxy. So we're going to use the pencil now to start adding a bit more dimension and yeah, fine tune all of that. And so the pencil's really good for tightening up all those areas where the marker has bled. I'll scan this for you guys afterwards as well, so you can zoom in, because you might not get all the detail from the video.
I do. I do.
Okay, so I'm going to just try and use the black and
Red cross.
the black and white as much as possible. Okay, so it's going to. Okay. Now the reason you've brought in a pencil that matches your marker as well is now you can start to tighten up some of the bodywork areas, or just soften some of those reflections that haven't quite gone as planned. And so it's like a really nice transition to go from the marker to the pastel. Kind of blends it in quite nicely for some of those areas where you might want to do that. Key with this card drawing is not to overwork the sketch. Really easy to spend too much time and do too much and overwork it. There's a fine line about how much is enough. Okay, so just again putting pencil where there's going to be panel transitions, giving things a bit of thickness. And I did miss this bonnet line and bumper line there. amateur mistake.
That's right, I'll let you off this time, Dan.
Thanking you. Now, I could actually try my biro here as well because I've got my 4 colour. Just get a nice.
You're out of frame.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Nice fine line. Now, one thing you're going to find as well, if you try to go over the pastel with some of the ball points, the ball point will clog up with pastel pretty quick. So that's in terms of processing the order that you're going to use. You might just want to consider that order. So I'm just going to tighten up some of these panels. So I think it's really easy to get, or not easy, quick. It's quick to get 90% of the rendering done. Then the longest part is the last 10% of the image where you're just getting those details in there. The details, they do matter, but we've got to be careful not to get sucked into those details too much. So what I'm doing here is just running around the marker, the red marker, and tightening up areas that might have bled too much or didn't quite look right. Okay, it's looking alright. Now we'll come in with the black pencil. Just add a bit of texture there. So
Because you're right-handed. Left-handed, take it.
yeah, everyone's going to do this left-handed as well.
Let the light come over.
Okay, so the wheel now just come back in with the. If you've got a grey pencil, I don't have one, but you might want to. If you've got a grey wheel and you want to come in and just tighten some of that up a little bit, but I'm just going to use the black. And again, leaving the wheels deliberately abstract so that they're not the focal point, not the first thing that the viewer looks at in the sketch. They're looking at the body itself. Okay. So, any questions so far?
Are you going to draw the bottom of that wheel, of the first one or second one?
No, I'm not.
It's in the snow.
Again,
Melted.
yeah.
Abstract.
Exactly.
Don't have to use mine like that too.
Do you know how long it would take to draw these little underside of the wheels? This is the longest part.
And it's because I don't want that to be the focal point, but I am going to put a shadow in.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to put a shadow in. You're talking about this area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing, look, it's like any of these design sketching techniques, you develop your own style. What I often do is that kind of thing. And if you look at a wheel outside, it actually does get a bit of bounce back from the road. We think that the darkest area is actually just where it makes contact with the asphalt, bitumen. It's actually not. It's like you get a bit of bounce back normally from the road itself, fall off from the road. So yeah, if you guys don't want to fill the bottom in, like just do something like that. Is that better? Because I'm not feeling confident with ellipses today. No, I never.
Yeah,
I did do it on that one, except for where it actually makes contact with the road.
Can anyone really draw ellipses properly?
Oh yeah.
And draw those in, didn't I? Trust me.
I don't know, but if I
Thing.
was doing that,
You drew
I'd
the original. Yeah, all
So
right.
just have competitions and like practice for years to get like
They might have been on for ellipses there.
I think you need at least 30 years experience, maybe.
When you were in
How old do you think I am?
39?
Oh, right.
When did you start
I
drawing?
thought you were saying I've got 30 years experience, so I tuned into that conversation.
I tried to
Whoa.
I assume you started drawing when you were very younger.
I did.
Yeah, only 39.
How old do you think he is?
Oh, alright, paying out my age.
Did you have a question, Isaac?
Yes, I had a question. I was gonna ask how is your drawings like contributing to like making these cars?
How was it?
Well, how did it contribute? Like, were you making heaps of mock-ups constantly, or?
So the process. Okay, so yeah, it's like talk about probably four cars that made it to the road that I worked on. One was the Mitsubishi Colt. The other one was the Nissan Murano. And so the Nissan Murano, the concept stage for that went for 2 weeks. And that was pretty much, for 2 weeks, like maybe 6 or 7 designers sketching every day. You might come up with 5 to 8 concepts refined to this level, front, rear view, pin it up on the wall for review every day. And then, design director would come through and have a tear off the wall. And then you have a discussion, about is it meeting the brief and all that, push the concept further forward. As the project obviously got further towards the end, you might start getting CG stuff involved or working on more on the details. And then the stage after that would be clay models probably. You might have 3 that you then go and clay up or CAD up.
Cool.
So that's anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks was pretty much it.
Just sketching and
The idea that car guys just draw cool
You
sketches
weren't
all day.
responsible for the cube.
No, but I do like that. Maybe I should be saying that.
So we draw that next year.
Yeah.
We've been drawing it all friggin' you. What do you mean?
So use a bit of biro as well, just to tighten that up.
Yeah, we're stupid.
And like I said, it's not we're not sketching cars in here because I want to turn you guys into car designers, because I actually don't. There's better things you can do with your time. But
he's speaking with experience though, so.
Yeah, well,
Well, I
you've
think-
been doing it in this country, so.
I think cars are more and more starting to become like appliances anyway. There's like less and less being, there's less and less being a super specialisation.
Saw on the news this morning, Dyson's building an electric car.
Are they?
Yep.
Okay.
He's got the motor ready to go, he just hasn't got the rest of it yet.
That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
No one will be able to work on it.
Yeah, that's right. And it'll be the most expensive.
And it'll cost $1 million for
electric
each
car.
one.
Yeah, it'll be held together with bloody torque nuts.
But while we are sketching a car, is again, just keep in mind it's because of the sculptural nature of it. There's amazing sculptural objects that are mass produced, and there aren't. I still don't think there's anything that comes close to a car in terms of complexity. The amount of people that work on it, you might have 500 people working to get one car into production. Incredible things, really. Just using the biro here to. Now, one other thing you might want to do, it's not too bad today, the pastel's not coming off this paper too much, but depending on what paper you've got, the pastel may want to release itself from the paper. So you might want to put some fixative over the pastel once you get to that point. I don't know if anyone's used fixative before.
Hairspray.
And hairspray is the alternative. Get some hairspray sprayed on your sketch, then you kind of seal it up, and then you can add more to it. I didn't bring my hairspray with me today. But make sure you don't use hairspray with, I don't know if this is real, aloe vera or oil, Moroccan, unobtainium oil or whatever kind of, just get get
Tears of it.
Is
Get the
the
home
sparkly
brand.
stuff alright? Are there glitter in it?
home brand, plain old.
Canola.
Yeah,
It's going for a yellow colour.
we really don't want these sketches destroyed by
Anyway, it's probably good. Yeah.
hair products.
Then try it. So you got
Who'd have thought your shopping list for drawing would be baby powder, lighter fuel?
My missus
Hairspray.
already thinks I'm full of shit. She should be here so she can get first-hand account of what you need. Try the
I
science
think
note.
you're in some weird shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close enough to having enough done here.
Don't play with
You need to sign letter.
So this is just gonna leave that rear wheel relatively undefined. It's defined enough. Hopefully we can focus our attention on the front.
it. Doesn't end.
The drawing.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's just beginning.
This isn't our final project though, is it? This is just today's submission.
Oh no, Dan. Why?
You have to draw the car in the final one.
Do you want me to spoil the final thing I have to do now?
Yes.
Do you wanna let it
Well,
No, no.
you told me you did last year, and it may be.
Just check.
suffer? Alright, you get to design and draw your own car. And you have to do it in front and rear.
It's time to cry.
The plank. The plank.
Oh, did you not? I think just the first one. Alright, you need to do it in rear.
Put a couple of cylinders over the end and not much in the middle.
These courses don't say the same every year. You know.
No. 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah, you
What
guys
do we have to do?
Like, what's left?
I want the 3D model of it. Clay model.
Yeah, don't even teach them surface modelling.
I
And
think
get
I'd enjoy
go
that.
try and model a car in solid modelling.
I was going to make it in a pop car.
I was just like, I quit, I'm dropping out.
Just
Sign my papers.
No, I need,
a reminder for you guys who are here that you've got your CAD intensive this Friday. And I'm sure Andrew sent out the email to you all,
Excuse me.
learn online thing.
Yeah, you said 10 till whenever.
Yep, so just remember you got to bring your Lego minifigure in.
tentatively finish the bloody Lego.
It doesn't look like you guys will have any power outages this year, so.
Say what?
Oh yeah, do you want to tell that story?
Oh, well, actually, I can't tell it because I wasn't there, but.
No, Andrew told us.
That was horrible.
Well, yeah, I was on a cruise ship at the time, but it's when we had those massive power outages in Australia. That's what the intensive was, and everyone lost. Yeah, and everyone lost their work, and had to start
Oh
again.
no.
But I lost power on the cruise ship, so it's kind of.
Oh, it's bad.
It went. There's a loud bang, and then all the lights went off. I was like, oh, sweet. Hit a fucking iceberg.
This story before.
Quick, need to find me a road before we sink.
No, no. Like,
Find yourself a plank of wood.
Shove her on the plane. I actually haven't watched Titanic. No, shame on you.
it's a great movie.
But who directed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't meant to be funny.
He's gone.
Oh, Isaac.
That was so. I miss him.
So you might want to play with. You can use black pencil for your outlines for this one this
Yeah.
week as well. Might not have to.
Would you finish it off the outline with the fine marker or no?
Well, I was going to put that up to a vote whether I go with a biro, marker, pencil.
Just to finish it off and make it look done, I'd like.
Yeah, again, stylistically, a lot of designers will leave it undefined like that, kind of
Yeah.
like, so you can have a discussion depending on what phase of the project it's at. But what did I think I did biro on that
There
one
is
up
a
there.
fine marker.
Fine marker, is it? Yeah. Sometimes the pencil is really good for getting dynamic strokes, like the flick strokes. A bit like what I did with that one.
Can we just do whatever we think suits?
You can do whatever you want. I want you guys to start building your own style up. So whatever you guys want to do. is completely fine. It's probably going to be a hybrid of pen and pencil anyway, just so you can get some detailing where you need it to get in. Like I'd like to get a bit more detail around that trim there, so I might come in with the 0.2.
Noticing people fall off the face of the earth.
I don't know why he didn't show up. Matt.
Give him a face move. The fourth person.
Yeah.
He wanted 2 weeks off.
I don't blame him.
I think that's what he'd be talking about.
You guys were mates.
He's always on his table.
Who?
Matt.
God, I should write a list of them down.
Is it? That boy? Is that guy? We've got rid of 8.
Your list is the towel part.
That went off.
Yeah. It's like triangle on the ground. I was like, I should like pull that up.
Isn't your
Oh, we can hook into Matt. He's not here.
Yeah, that was not
He can
really
defend himself.
You took into him whether he was here or not.
Like,
Well,
since the other week when I cracked the reveal, I think this is mentioned by the fuck.
What did you do to do that?
Green music.
Not really. So the road fell away from me.
Yeah, right.
A bit of the road had fallen away. I was like, after pulling it all night, everything was like,
There is one other thing missing here as well. I wouldn't mind putting a shadow on. We got orange there last year.
perpendicular.
Oh, yeah. Go with the green. Let's
Go with the green.
Christmas.
Keep it Christmas. So
Jeez.
I don't know. The November Mercedes Christmas one. David Jones would love it having this grey.
Tweeted at him.
So, I think I needed a wheel one.
It's not even Halloween yet.
They have Christmas decorations upstairs. It takes up a quarter
Blessing
of
in
the floor.
disguise.
So I saw Woolies the other day and all the Christmas puddings.
But I'm talking like full blown like.
I fucking love late
What's
stage
going on? It's
capital.
going back to normal, so I think that one's fixed.
Like that's early.
I love Christmas.
So, interesting point about shadows for those who are
This might
interested in.
surprise you.
What?
What a
Sure.
Grinch.
Zach, you can probably remember this
Exactly
one.
what you
Yep.
What colour shadows do Honda use in their studio? All their sketches.
Blue.
Incorrect.
I don't pay attention to one.
That studio, they always use red shadows. So every designer has to have a red shadow
Oh, for that, yeah.
on the sketch and the concept sketches. So
That was the red.
just a studio policy. I'm not sure if they've maybe got a theory about
Well,
it.
it's all that type art logo is red, so it might be because
It is a bit of a brand colour, the red.
Why don't you draw your car red? There's not clash with this shadow. They're all black.
that's why Honda don't release red cars anymore.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the things, sometimes depending on the studio you're working at or office you're working at, you may have to adapt your style to meet what the boss says.
I had a little Christmas bauble hanging up the mirror.
Like you see like this fucking
Neon.
back in there.
My mistake.
I'm a mad
She got
Max
those
one.
bits of
That's
Five
not
minutes
that
don't
long.
do it. People are
Stacks
literally
all
gonna throw eggs at you.
Hexagonal truck.
Well, do you know those people who like
Quentin
stick
was not enjoying the
radiant
footy.
antlers under the car?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're the worst.
Jagged in as well, we couldn't chase them.
Alright. So I'm going to run with just a pen outline.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you are.
You got sprung.
Go up, go up.
And
It is true that you went to that. Detail was. That's all I've done. Yeah, one bit. No, can't detail from shit.
I am very concerned. I can't draw straight lines. How am I supposed to colour a car?
There's no straight lines in there. Draw a beetle.
yeah, it's no straight lines.
Well, I mean,
drawing straight
there's
lines.
joined lines though. Joined curves.
That just sounds like an excuse.
It is an excuse.
He's trying.
I'm I've been trying for so long.
So the last thing I might do, and again I could keep working this up, but we've got to just call it at some point, is the highlights. Yeah. So
I think the hardest part's calling when it's.
I mean, one of the highlights was a couple of comments.
I've got that China graph pencil on here now, but yeah, equally a white pencil would be okay. Just kind of pick up some of those points. Do you think reiterating where the center line is probably worth doing as well? And repeating that and that how that runs down there. Didn't really do much down here. I feel like I should have spent more time there as well. Softening that up. There is one thing I haven't done anything to yet, and that's the grill itself, the texture on the grill there. What I would do there is we'll come back to what I would normally do there. I've got texture boards that you can buy, but depending on the table surface that you've got, you might be able to. Did you guys ever do that thing with coins when you were a kid, where you kind of So you can start to keep a little library of swatches of interesting textures and use that to get things like radiator grill patterns and plastic patterns. Think about a lot of the products you're working on, like the Fitbit you've got on there. It's got like a really interesting texture on the wristband. So if you've got a texture board there, you don't have to draw it. Flywire is a great one to use as well. I don't have any of those things on me at the moment. So I'm just going to add a bit of a hatch pattern there. That hopefully makes it look a bit like it's maybe a metal wire. Not putting too much detail in there, again, just enough to make it look like there's something going on there, but we do a more detailed sketch for that if this was a concept presentation. The highlights. Good paper time. So I just hit it a few spots with liquid paper. Okay. Alright, that's probably enough for now. I don't know where that eraser went. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to cut a little bit more of that back. And the other thing you guys got to do with all your drawings, because you never know who's going to steal your drawings, is make sure you sign the sketch. And then that's probably enough for that one. All right, you guys got any questions about that?
How much does it cost to buy off?
Is there any size?
Zach will do one for you.
That's alright. I'll take that.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it might look a bit better on screen. But
Are you ambidextrous then?
oh yeah.
Really?
Well, that sounds like a bit of a brag, doesn't it?
No. Very left-handed. Yeah.
Should be like it's like you have to be ambidextrous. If you break this hand or this wrist, you can do it with the other one.
What?
You never have any